Good morning, students. Welcome back to your English tutorial classes. I hope you all are fit and fine. So, students, today we are going to start a poem called Uphill. Before I just proceed to the next slide, I would like to give you an overall view of the poem Uphill. Over the course of a journey, the narrator asks her guide 8 questions about the road ahead. The narrator asks if the roads are all uphill and if the journey will take all day. The guide replies in the affirmative. Next, the narrator asks if there is a place to rest for the night and if the darkness will obscure said resting place from their view. The guide assures the narrator that there is an inn and they will be able to miss it. The narrator's 5th question is about which other travelers will be on the road. At the inn, the narrator asks if the other travelers would prefer for her to knock or call out. The guide tells the narrator that someone will open the door. Lastly, the narrator asks if there will be a bed for her. The guide tells her that there are beds for everyone. So, from this, we can get to know that the narrator, the poet, is asking a guide few questions while the guide was taking her for a tour. While the guide and the narrator was having a journey, the narrator altogether asked 8 questions to the guide. And in each question, the guide gave a very firm answer. A formative answer means a positive answer. The first question that the narrator asked, the narrator asked to the guide that throughout the journey, will they all travel uphill or will the journey will be taking all day? The next question the narrator asks that will there be a place where they can rest? Then she asked, will there be beds for her to sleep or not? So in all these questions, the guide gave a very positive answer. Next, this is just the summary. We will have a detail about the poem. About the poet. Now, the poem Uphill was written by Christina Georgina Rossetti. Now, students, if you remember, we have read one more poem written by this poet. That was Achille, right? So, I think you all are familiar with the poet. Then also, just go through about the poet. Christina Georgina Rossetti, born on 5th December 1830 and died on 29th December 1894, was an English poet who wrote various romantic, devotional and children's poems. Poet Christina Rossetti was born in 1830, the youngest child in an extraordinarily gifted family. She was the author of numerous books of poetry including Goblin Market and other poems that was written in 1862. The Princess Progress 1866, A Pehant 1881 and The Face of the Deep 1882. Rossetti began writing down and dating her poems from 1842, most of which intimated her favored poets. Characters of the poem. So there are 2 characters of the poem, that is the traveler and the guide. Who is the traveler? The narrator is a weary traveler on a difficult road. So the narrator here is the poet herself. She asks her guide questions about the journey ahead and ponders her life. The guide The guide is a source of comfort and answers all of the narrator's question about resting spots and the journey ahead. So guide is the person who can give him or who can give others a overall view about the journey. So here also the guide has given all the answer to the poet. Whatever she has asked about the resting spot or about the journey, she has got a positive and a firm answer from the guide. Uphill. First I will read the poem for you. The whole poem I am going to read for you. After that I will explain stanza wise. Uphill by Christina Rossetti. Does the road wind uphill all the way? Yes, to the very end. Will the day's journey take the whole long day? From morn to night, my friend. But is there for the night a resting place, a roof for when the slow dark hours begin? May not the darkness hide it from my face? You cannot mix that in. Shall I meet over wayfarers at night, those who have gone before? Then must I knock or call when just in sight. They will not keep you standing at the door. Shall I find comfort, travel sore and weak? Of labor you shall find the sum. Will there be beds for me and all who sick? Yea, beds for all who come. Summary of the poem. Before we go to the summary of the poem, I will just go stanza wise. First stanza. Does the road wind uphill all the way? Yes, to the very end. Will the day's journey take the whole day long? From morn to night, my friend. In this first stanza, the speaker is questioning if life is a continual journey upwards. The answer states that it is. The reference to the journey taking from morn to night, that means from morning to night, refers to the beginning of the life, morn, to death, that means night. The second stanza asks, but if there for the night a resting place, a roof for when the slow dark hours begin, may not the darkness hide it from my face? You cannot miss that in. Here the speaker questions if there are any places along the road where one can rest. The answer that the speaker has got from the guide, when the slow dark hour begin, the answerer assures that the darkness will not mask the inn. Everyone can find it. What this refers to is the end of life and the one place where all will go. So here, though the poet is having a journey, but here the main meaning of the poet is to say about the whole journey of our life from birth till to the death. In the third stanza, shall I meet other wayfarers at night, those who have gone before? Then must I knock or call when just in sight? They will not keep you standing at that door. Here the speaker questions if the inn will have a resting place. The answerer, that means the guide, states that a roof will be available and that those who have come before the speaker will allow the speaker to come into the inn unopposed. Means they will allow the speaker also to come inside the inn, those who have reached before. In the final stanza, shall I find comfort, travel sore and weak? Of labor you shall find the sum. Will there be beds for me and all who seek? Yea, beds for all who come. Again the speaker asks if there will be somewhere where rest can be found. The answerer replies that there is plenty of room for all who have successfully made the journey uphill. The poem speaks to the fact that life is a constant struggle and challenge. Those who are able to succeed at passing the uphill journey will be rewarded by having a place where they will be able to rest. For some, this inn represents heaven, where the angels will welcome the newly dead in a constant struggle and challenge. Others may attribute the inn to metamorphically represent the ground which opens to escape dead bodies. Essentially, the poem speaks to the question one has regarding life and the unknown truth of our life. The answerer of the questions is the speaker's mind, saying all will be well after the journey has been completed. So, this is about the poem. So, here the poet has tried to give a vivid description about the journey of a human being till from the birth to the death. And the poet has also said that after death, the angels, those who are there in the heaven, will welcome you with an open heart. So what is the summary of the poem? I'm just going through the summary. Over the course of a journey, the narrator asks her guide 8 questions about the road ahead. The narrator asks if the roads are all uphill and if the journey will take all day. Uphill means if the journey is very tough. When we climb a hill, it is very tough for us to climb. So, here the poet wants to ask that the journey is tough or easy. The guide replies in the affirmative. Affirmative means in a positive way. The guide replied in a positive way. Next, the narrator asks if there is a place to rest for the night and if the darkness will obscure said resting place from their view. The guide assures the narrator that there is an inn and they will not be able to miss it. The narrator's 5th question is about which other travelers will be on the road. At the inn, the narrator asks if the other travelers would prefer for her to knock or call out. The guide tells the narrator that someone will open the door. Lastly, the narrator asks if there will be a bed for her. The guide tells her that there are beds for everyone. So exactly what we have learned, if we analyze the poem once again, the question and the answer form is common in devotional writing because it encourages the reader to contemplate his or her own response to the question. The guide addresses the narrator as my friend, which is also what Christ called his disciples. The poem is comprised of 4 stanzas with 4 lines each, following the A-B rhyme scheme. In this way, the rhyme scheme separates the traveler from the guide, and the simplicity alleviates the pressure of the difficult topic. The meter starts with a torch and shifts into alternating pentameter and trimeter. The pace is consistent, just like the narrator's steady uphill climb. The journey is the prominent symbol in this poem and is open to a few different interpretations. The first interpretation is that the poem symbolizes the journey from birth to death. The darkening sky foreshadows the end of life, and the inn represents the final resting place. Considering Rossetti's religious background, this final resting place could be interpreted as heaven. The act of knocking on the door represents the Christian confession of sin and the need for forgiveness before admittance into heaven. When describing this moment, Rossetti chooses to use a nearly verbatim quote from the Gospel of Matthew. Rossetti frames death as a form of respite after the tiring journey of life. There is a slight possible variation on the interpretation that the road represents the journey of life. Already careworn, the weary traveler wonders if life grows easier as she grows older. However, the guide tells her that the road that remains is uphill and outdoors. This interpretation does not resolve the symbolism behind the inn. It is possible that the inn could represent death, which also provides an opportunity for rest at the end of the road. A third reading seems less likely because of Rossetti's religious view, but it is worth examining. This school of thought considers the journey to represent Christianity. In this case, the inn would also represent heaven, just like in the first interpretation. Uphill is a classic example of Rossetti's devotional literature, which dealt with doubt as well as eternal assurance. The road takes on several meanings, each revealing a facet of Rossetti's contemplation of life and its hardship. Word meanings: journey, trip or tour. Mourn, short form of mourning. Sight, glimpse or vision. Seek, search for. Comfort, solace. Resting place, place where people can stop and rest. Uphill, climbing. Thank you, students. I hope, students, this poem is going to help you or to know you the real meaning of life. That yes, throughout our life, we have to struggle. The whole life is just like climbing a mountain, which is very hard. We have to overcome very, very hard situations, or we have to overcome difficult areas and foundations. And lastly, we reach to heaven after death. And angels are there who are going to welcome us with open hand. Thank you, students. Stay safe, stay healthy.